Yo, what's up? We're currently setting up our studio for some talking heads, for some reviews like the Vexy's VFX filters, for the Tilta Mirage matte box and so on. And I thought it would be cool for this kind of shot to have a top-down angle as well as my just regular front angle. And I thought, why not give you a small tutorial on how to quickly and easily and somewhat affordable set up a top angle for your YouTube shots or your client work. My name is Damien Cooper and welcome to Monkey Pixels. When it comes to the choice of the camera that you're going to use for the top angle, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, a lighter camera makes the whole setup a little bit easier, but you can also mount somewhat heavy cameras with the setup that I'm going to show you. Another thing would be that the top-down angle should be easily matchable to your front angle. In my case, I'm shooting with the Canon C300 Mark III and my top-down camera will be the Canon C70. Obviously, this is a camera that is a little bit on the larger and heavier side, especially with a lens like the Canon 16-35. And you could also use a Canon EOS R5, a Sony a7 something, FX3 or a Blackmagic Pocket something or the other. Another thing that I appreciate when using a top-down angle is a flip-out screen, so I don't have to mount anything or just set up a separate monitor. Another thing that I also appreciate is a good working autofocus, because that way I don't have to worry about focus pulling, and if I want to show something up in the camera, it's also easier when you have autofocus. But other than that, this is pretty much all the requirements we have for our top-down camera. And like I said, it's pretty flexible and totally up to you. The first thing we need for our entire setup is a sturdy C-stand. And I'm using one that is from Manfrotto. I think it's the Avenger series. And this one comes in at around $350, I think. So this is a little on the pricier side, but it would totally work with one from Amazon. And I have one of these as well, and I used that in the past. So it really doesn't matter if you use the heavy duty one or use the one from Amazon, and I will link down both in the description below. Okay, so setting up the C-stand consisting of our base as well as our main pole. As for the boom arm, I'm using also a really heavy duty one from Manfrotto. And this one you can extend and you can put some weight on it. It's really cool for some heavy lights or some heavier cameras. But as I've already said, if you have a smaller camera like a Sony a7 IV, 7S3, whatever, then you don't really need that big of a setup, and you can use a flag pole that comes with the C-stand that I will link down in the description below from Amazon. The advantage of a heavy boom pole like this is that it comes with a hook to attach a counterweight on the back of the thing. The disadvantage is that you don't have a screw or mounting option on the front side, because this is mainly used for attaching lights, but we actually have a way around this. So one thing we need to have is this kind of L bracket. It doesn't necessarily need to be an L bracket, it doesn't need to be flexible, because we just need to bridge a connection from our boom pole to our tripod mount. And this we do with a spigot. So we have this little thing, we put it in our L bracket, then we screw this tightly to the front, and then we can use this to actually mount something to our boom pole. Here you have different options as well. You could just use this one and attach directly to your camera. You could also use an entire ball head or a tripod head, or like I did, I'm just using the base plate for a tripod plate. And this is probably the sturdiest because I don't really need to move the camera around a lot. So this will probably do. All right, next up, we just attach our base plate to our spigot. Then we will attach all of this to our boom pole, nice and tight, and that can actually hold a lot of weight. Next up, and this is a recommendation from me that you would totally need to get. On the C70, you actually don't need to have it because it already has a tripod mounting screw on the side, so you could actually mount it vertically without any cage. But for any other camera, I highly suggest that you will get just a basic cage for this setup, because it makes your camera a little bit sturdier and you have way more mounting options. And that way you don't have to work around with angles, with ball heads or anything like that, because you can just directly attach it to the side of your camera, and that way it's way easier to fixate it onto your boom pole. So we take our cage and then we use our tripod plate and we just screw on our tripod plate to the side of our camera. And then we can attach this to our entire boom pole setup. But before we do that, I highly suggest that we're using some sandbags or counterweights. If you're on a budget, you can use a backpack filled with something or whatever weight you can muster. So we're using one to secure our C-stand and then the other one that should be roughly, this one is a little heavier, but you know, it's still better than not having anything at all. So we will attach this to the one side and then we can attach our camera to the other side of our setup. Okay, so this is really sturdy on here. And now, since we want to get this in the middle of our setup, we can extend this all the way out here. And then if we want to get this higher up, we can also do so as well. Then we go up just a little bit, so we give ourselves a little bit more room. And there we have it. This is nice and easy. We have an easy top-down shot with the tilt-out screen from our C70. We can just look up and see what we actually have in frame. It also is the exact angle that we want to have, because usually if you have it on the bottom, then you need to either come from behind, but then you would obviously see it, or you need to find some jerry-rigged solution to have it alongside the pole. But this one is a really heavy-duty setup, and that one just works totally fine, and I'm not worried about my camera falling down onto my table or onto a potential client. If you don't have a flip out screen, you can either just route a long HDMI cable to an external monitor that you put on a light stand, or if you want to go wirelessly, you can do so too. Another thing I forgot to mention when we were filming this is the lighting, because we need a light from above to illuminate our product on the table. And here we can obviously set up another C-stand with another boom pole and a dedicated light for just the table, but in most cases a small tube light like this is actually sufficient. And the way that I like to attach it is via this clamp arm. Of course, you can go the budget route and just duct tape it underneath, or you can just use these because they are actually perfect for this, because they are magnetic. If you don't have these magnetic tube lights, then you can use an arm like this, and you're obviously a little bit more flexible with it. This one is actually meant for a GoPro with a tripod mount attached to it, but I use it for a lot of things, just to get lights or other equipment into places where I am a little bit more flexible. So we can clamp it to our boom pole and then we can just move it around wherever we want the light source to be. And this one right here with different kind of colors, and there's a full review of these lights on my channel. We can also change the color temperature. Is perfect for illuminating small products on our table for a top-down shot like this. And there you have it. This is a very easy and somewhat affordable way to just have a top-down angle, and this just raises your production quality of either your YouTube videos or your client work by a mile. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, just give it a thumbs up because it really helps the channel grow. Subscribe for more. Click down on the links in the description below to see all the parts that I used for this particular setup, and I hope to see you on the next one. Okay, I'm going to set this up, whatever the fuck you did with it. Tube for a couple of talking heads for some reviews that I'm going to do in the very near future. No, they're actually going to be up before this video. If you just